Hello everybody, it's Mike here. What you're looking at the moment is my little setup for watch case restoration. I'm going to talk you through a few of the projects that I use here um, and see if any of you find any of this useful, I suppose. So we're going to start off with this little thing here. All this is emery cloth. This is about an 80 grit emery cloth. And if you don't know what emery cloth is, it's just aluminium oxide abrasive on a cotton or a cloth backing. It's very aggressive, certainly when you're thinking about doing it on a watch. I only use this really for like really deep scratches on watch backs. I've used it a little bit on the clasps as well. So it's a sort of handle with care type of product. What I use a lot of is wet and dry, and I tend to just cut pieces up like this, to be fair, because a lot of the things I'm using, a lot of things I'm doing are by hand. So if I've got a watch case like this one, for instance, and I want to just sort of get the scratches out, I'm going to go along like this, do the whole case. I use various grades, but in the main, using a 240 to start out with, depending on the scratches again you're trying to remove, or I go to a 400, sometimes an 800 or even 1000. The key thing is, certainly if you want to get a mirror finish or a shiny finish at least, is as many increments as possible, because then it makes the polishing stage a lot simpler. What you tend to find is you can get all the way to the polishing stage and polish the thing up, and if you haven't removed enough of the scratches, it's at the polishing stage where you actually see them, and it can be quite aggravating because it means you've got to sort of backtrack a little bit, start all over again even. So that's a bit of wet and dry. You've probably never seen anything like this before. This was a sample given to me by one of my suppliers, and this is basically aluminium oxide abrasive on a sponge, and they were giving out these as samples really for people to give to their wives because it's good for using on their nails. For me, well, I thought I'd use it on a watch case. What else? The good thing I found with this is it's quite a fine abrasive, because it's spongy, as you can see. It follows contours very well. So again, if you're trying to do a shape, this, you can control your pressure because that's a key thing, and it's going to flex to the shape of what you're trying to rub with. I am trying to source these because some of you might know that I'm trying to do a kit, and I think these would be a handy addition. This was a gimmick given to me, so it's not like a product that they're selling, but I'm sure there must be a product out there like this that we can get our hands on quite easily enough. Okay, I've also then got now this is a 3M rubbing block, but it can be just any old rubbing block. You can get this from any department, like Home Depot in America, or B&Q in the UK, in the decorating department. Same principle, it's rubber, so it's got some flex. I've got here some P400 wet and dry on it, and again I use this usually for flat parts of cases. So I don't know if you can see the watch I'm wearing, it's got a flat bit on the top here, so if I was trying to get rid of the scratches on that, I would be offering it up to this, and I usually give a circular motion for quite a while. Fairly constant pressure, but don't go too hard. I think if you go too hard you will start taking corners off. The thing with stainless steel is it's quite forgiving because it's quite a tough material. Obviously sharp edges or real nice corners you've got to be a bit careful of, so you sort of use this at your discretion, but it's another great handy tool to have in your arsenal. I'll come to this thing later on. This is a bit of an experiment, to be honest with you. We sell these at work, and they are called dressing sticks. It's made from white aluminium oxide. It's a 220 grit, so it's quite a fine one. and it's a vitrified product, and we sell these actually into people who are using super abrasives, so diamond wheels for instance, and they are using this on the diamond wheel to clear the resin or the bonding to reveal more diamond, sort of like for high precision grinding. Again, what I found this handy for is for just trying to get some straight lines back. Case in point is this case. So this is one of the was a gold plated case I got hold of, a whole watch. It was pretty knackered, and I've managed to strip off all the plating, and I'm now trying to refurb the brass essentially to try and make it look like a gold case again. And what I found, and I found this actually on a few brass cases, is they seem to have more rounded edges, and I think that must be something to do with the way the plating then goes on. I've actually, not on this particular watch, but on another watch I've got the stainless steel version of the same thing, and the stainless steel is much more angular than the brass one was. But anyway, I'm sort of digressing slightly there. You can possibly see here that it has this sort of little flat angle. I don't think my phone camera can pick that up very well. And what I found through trying to restore the top part here was I lost some of the edge. So I've got this stone essentially, and offered it up at the right angle, kind of like, I don't know if you can see, like this. It's very hard for me to do this. It's the first video I've ever shot. And basically sort of filed away very slowly. Sometimes it's easier actually to have the stone on the table, on the bench, and to offer it up that way. As I say, it's a bit experimental, but it's certainly working for me at the moment. The key thing I'm also doing is I'm not trying to restore anything really expensive. So that way it's damage limitation. If I've spent £20 on a watch and I've knackered up the case through my own stupidity, then well, I've lost £20. It's no real big deal, is it? Certainly while we're all trying to learn. So on to the next bit really, before I start talking about the rotary tool. People know this as Scotch Brite. It's got many different names. Hand pads, I tend to call them. Scotch Brite is just a trade name from 3M. Now, there's a bit of a misconception about this stuff. You do see the green one quite a lot, certainly on the bottom of dish scourers. You see a maroon, sometimes you see a grey. And the problem you've got is a lot of different manufacturers make this, and they all use the same sort of colours, but it's not necessarily the same grade. So I've got actually at work some maroon, which is really thick and really is not flexible. So the key thing is here we're trying to find something fine. Fortunately, I deal with a supplier called Mercer. Some of you may have heard of Mercer, and they only do 3 grades. They do a green one, which is general purpose, this maroon one, which is they call it very fine, and the grey, which is ultra fine. This is a new product from them. I have one sheet only, and it's proving to be pretty good right at the very last stage. The key thing on this again is I'm going to be using this in increments. So I'm going to have used possibly this, possibly this, possibly this. Once I'm trying to then get it towards the polishing stage, which when we get onto these things, I'm going to rub things a lot with certainly the maroon one, and then considerably with the grey one. You're just trying to get rid of those scratches that you've already put in, and trying to smooth things off a little bit. Again, go back to what I said earlier on, the more you do in preparation, the easier it is, and the better that the finish is at the end. So again, yes, these might feel quite rough, but certainly if you got hold of the Mercer one, or if you asked me and I got you some, this is quite fine. So I'm not going to offer this one up, but the principle is, I'm going to basically usually circles with this, but then you can really use your hands a lot depending on what you're trying to do. Plenty of time using that. Exactly the same with this one. especially this one, and then potentially this one if I can get hold of some more and demonstrate it for you at a later date. Very good products. Rotary tool. So I've just got a £20 rotary tool off eBay. This one's not the best, but it does what I need it to do. I'm working my way through lots of different accessories on this. You know, I do know a bit about abrasives, but trying to translate it into doing very small things from normally doing very large things is being quite challenging. But I have found some products so far that are working, and some stuff is still in the experimental stage, which is, for instance, this. Again, I'm not trying to get the camera to focus on this. This is a little mini flat wheel. I bought these on eBay from China. This is a P600 grit, and the idea of this was really to try and, well, the main idea is actually here. I'd got this particular watch, for instance, came on a gold-plated bracelet, and the bracelet was quite worn. You'd never use it again in this condition it's in. You can see there possibly that it's still got some gold on it, but it's awful. So it's ripe for experimentation from me, using various products. I bought some of these in a 240 grit, and I tried them, and they were just a little bit too aggressive. And what I was actually doing was put in almost flat spots, which is, you know, a nightmare, certainly on a curved product. I think you can see that's curved. The 600 is, because it's a bit finer, it seems to work a bit better. Again, I'm going to try and demonstrate some of these in another video, so you can kind of see a bit of a hands-on operation. Sorry, I just dropped that one. The other key thing with these, and anything you're going to put on a rotary tool generally, is to understand which way your tool rotates, and to make sure that you put the abrasive on the right way. These are like flapped wheels, so I can't really demonstrate because I haven't got too much product, but you'd essentially have a layer after layer of paper, or like that, you know, going around a little bit of plastic. Put them on the wrong way, the flaps go the wrong way, and it potentially unwinds, and it certainly doesn't cut how you want it to. So it's always worth making sure that you check your rotation. They're quite easy because these come on a screwed mandrel, so they just unscrew off, and you can turn them round and put them on the opposite way. So it is quite easy to make the mistake. So it's just a bit of a heads up, to be fair. So again, that's using for rough work. I found this particular product's been very good for taking off the gold plating and certainly deep scratches as well. Quite a handy thing to have. Then we go on to this. Now, I don't know whether you can see that very well. I'm trying to. There we are. This is called a radiac wheel, and they're like little bits of plastic with abrasive on them. The same applies to these. Put them on the spindle the right way, make them spin the right way. They're quite thin. You can get them in all different grades. I think up to about 600 grit, I think, is what I saw. And they're really good for getting into tricky areas, or you know, small detail work that you're trying to do. I like to keep going back to this case, but I found this was really grubby, certainly in this area and here, and again on the ends there, and this just made light work of all of that. I'm not too worried about the finish because obviously I'm going to come back and do that. Likewise, it was pretty good around the bottom parts. They're very, very cheap. I don't know how long they last because I've not had them long enough to see how they last. Again, they come on you buy the mandrel separate. It's got a little screw on the top and you can unscrew it. So once you've got one mandrel, unless you really knacker it up, you don't need to buy another one unless you want to have, of course, all the different grits on different mandrels. So that's a radiat wheel. Okay, so this is the same sort of Scotch-Brite type material on mandrels. Now I bought these from China. It's always a starting base, isn't it, when you're trying to try these things out, because they're cheap. You've seen I've got green ones, sort of black ones, and these brown ones. Brown ones I found really good. They're quite stiff. It's more for roughing work again. I found it very useful on bracelets to try and get rid of some scratches. The other colours, they're not as good, to be fair. That said, there are going to be better quality ones. I've already seen some in the UK here, which I'm going to buy and try out, because I know this product is the same as that, really. So if it's the right product on the mandrel, or a better quality product on the mandrel, then surely it's going to work better, isn't it? So I'm still yet to play around with them, but another key thing to have in your arsenal. They don't cost anything, really, so it's worth having them. The main products, or the main polishing product that I use, is felt, predominantly. In the UK we call these felt bobs. Don't ask me who Bob is, but he's got a lot to answer for. These come in lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes. You get them already on the mandrels, you get them in point shapes, cone shapes, everything. I just tend to stick with this. This one's 6mm thick. It's I think 25mm diameter. You can get them thinner, 3mm, which again is going to be useful if you're trying to do some more tricky areas. Or you can get them, I don't know what shape you call this, or whether it comes over on the camera very well, but it's sort of angular on both sides, so you can get into two areas. The way these attach is you just get, that's the wrong one, they come on a mandrel with a threaded point on them, so you just thread them on like so. You might be wondering what this thing is here. I've got this on this one, and I've got it on the cotton one, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, if you're using a rotary tool, or certainly if you're using the same one as I've got, I've learnt my lesson, and it's a worth lesson to tell you. You mount these things quite easily. You know, they just go in, and then you tighten it up, and that's enough. There's a little collet in there you can change for different diameters. But what happens is I tend to use them not right in. I have them out a little bit because I want the reach usually to get over the workpiece, essentially. And sometimes you slip. Sometimes when you're using the cotton one, certainly when you're trying to go into the sort of here, it can often slip through the hole of the watch case. What happens is this horrible knurled nut collides with the case and scratches the hell out of it, and bang goes a whole evening's worth of work. So I've counteracted that problem because I've had too many slips, and I've basically I got an old PC, funnily enough, and these were the rubber feet on the bottom of the PC, and I drilled a hole in them and just pushed them on. And what happens now, of course, when we put that in, if I can put it in, there we are, is if I'm going to get any slippages, it's going to hit that, it's not going to hit this. On rubber, I can deal with rubber, I can't deal with metal on metal. So it's a handy tip for you. I don't think any other rotary dresser is going to have any guards. It might obviously have a better design, but it's still a problem that you might face. Just while I'm on the subject of that, sometimes I found as well, through learning that lesson, that when you're doing, certainly around the aperture, it's to put the case back on. Because if you've got the case back on, it ain't going to come all the way through and, you know, do some damage. So there's a little handy tip. Now, I predominantly only use the felt. Felt's really good. I only use them for polishing. what's good about the felt, of course, is it's quite pliable and it will mould to the shapes. You have to be careful with these. You want to make sure that you buy soft ones. So buying from your local watch outlets, you know, the tool outlets, you're probably going to get something better. I went on to eBay, as probably everybody does, and bought some from China, these little tiny ones, and I got a bag of them, a bag of 50 for £1. It was too good a deal to look up, but they arrived, and the problem with them is they're too hard. Now, I don't necessarily blame China for that, because we do sell these in my company on an industrial level, and these things are like 10 inches diameter, and quite often the harder or the denser the one, the better it is. But I found for this application, these hard ones are no good, because they get clogged up with the compounds very quickly, and what ends up is you don't really polish, you just kind of rub and it almost starts scratching. So I've literally got 45 of these left probably that I don't see where I'm going to use them. So, you know, buy good quality ones, or, you know, I mean, we're talking, I think, £1 a go in UK money, so it's not a lot of money, but £1 for one against £1 for 50, you think it's false economy, but they do last a little while, so it's worth, you know, spending that little bit extra. What I often, well, not often, but sometimes I go over at the end with a cotton bob. So this is very soft, it's very good for that final polish. You can either use it just as it is, or you can put some compound onto it and use it that way. Be prepared, they're going to get a bit messy. The cotton tends to fall apart and get quite dusty, so sometimes that final operation is quite a dusty one, should we say. Compounds. So this Dilux brand is probably one of the best, if not the best, out there. Value for money, it's really good, but it's quite well recognised, certainly in the jewellery trade. They come in lots of different colours, and the different colours are for different types of materials predominantly. For some reason I like to use the word predominantly a lot. For stainless, so if we're doing a stainless case, I'm going to use the blue, which, believe you me, you can just use blue, it'll be fine. But I then go over the white. The white is for sort of like that final pass, but I guess it's obviously finer grade in there. The stuff itself is actually quite hard, and you do wonder how anything would work. You can see I've attacked it like crazy here, but I guess with the friction of the cotton, or sorry, the felt, it kind of melts it a little bit, you know, but to touch it is quite a hard product. So, you know, these two really for stainless. Any jeweller will tell you all about the red one. The red one's for gold, essentially, mainly yellow gold. I haven't got anything gold other than my wedding ring, so although that said, I have polished that up a few times. But I got this because it was so cheap to me, so I bought every colour, well, not every colour I thought I'd use. The yellow one is for soft metals, so again, mainly, and it's the only one actually that I'll use for my little brass case here. Very good. The green is just a general purpose. It even advertises it saying you can use it on everything, so you know, if you're only going to buy one, I suppose you could just buy that, but because they're quite cheap, you may as well have a few. One bar is going to last you forever, I would imagine. Incidentally, you can use, or it does say in the instructions that you can use blue on chrome plating. Now, you know, I've got lots of chrome plated watches, because some of you might know that I'm really into the 70s watches, and they plated everything in the 70s by the looks of it, and usually very thinly. So you've got to be pretty careful. You're not going to get rid of the scratches like you can in stainless on plating, unfortunately. You'll end up taking the plating off. But you know, just a quick skim over, it might buff it up, might make it look a little bit newer. So well, that's kind of it on the stuff I use. I've got quite a lot of other stuff coming to me actually. I've got some what's called unitized wheels, which are just little wheels which are made out of another abrasive material, and I think they've got a little bit of give in them. The idea is to try and find better products to go over the contours of things, where you can keep the shape, so you're not trying to take the shape away. Something with a bit of give, but something with enough abrasive. You know, stainless, as I said before, is a tough material. You know, you might not think it is because it's got so many scratches from when you wear them, but once you try and take a scratch out, you realise that stuff is hard, because you've got to do a lot of work to try and get rid of the scratch. So my aim really is to find some good products that make that job quite easy. I guess some of you as well might be thinking, I'd never dream of taking a power tool to my my watches, and yeah, well, that's entirely up to you. I could understand exactly why you wouldn't want to. A lot of this you can use by hand anyway, but it's just to get that final shine. Certainly if you've seen some of my examples and you like them, you know, my end result is always done by usually these and the felt bob. One other thing, just another tip really, well, two things, because the first thing is always make sure that you are wearing eye protection, whether it's normal glasses. I often wear my my visor that I've got here, which I do my fixes on my watches now. Again, this is a great thing to use when you're trying to polish your case, because you can really see what you're doing. But always just wear eye protection, because abrasives, you know, can be quite nasty. You get a bit of that in your eye, you know, it could get pretty ugly. The one thing I did say that I was going to mention is this here. This is actually just a silicon carbide rubbing block that you can buy. Well, I've actually used this to rub down all the paintwork on my doors recently and repaint them. But all I'm using this for is to redress, or what we call dressing, redress the cotton, the felt. Sorry. When you use the compounds, you'd offer, you know, you'd start your rotary tool up. This would be spinning. You'd offer it up to the compound. You put a little bit on, and you'd, you know, work away with it. Then you might need to put a bit more on, and a bit more on, and so on and so forth. But what happens is it gets clogged up with the compound, and you soon know that because you can see it and you can feel it, and it doesn't feel like you can pull it apart. It's all tough. I haven't got one in front of me to show you that, but essentially all I do is, you know, offer it up to this while it's still spinning. It's quite abrasive. You can see I've done it there already, and you're just going to pass it a couple of times. It opens that up again, and you can keep on using it. Or if you want to change grades, you know, you don't have to have a different felt bob for each different compound that you're going to use. You know, the purists might say that you should. I have got great results just using the one and just cleaning it a little bit and then going on to the next one, you know. And I think, to be honest, that's half an hour worth of video. If you've decided to sit all the way through that, well, you know, well done. Hopefully I've given you guys some kind of idea of things to use. It is very much a work in progress, okay, so I've not been doing this very long, certainly in watches. It's just that I've had 20 years in engineering and abrasive resale to know a little bit about what products or what things you could use that are going to combat the problems that you face. So you know, if you've got any questions, let me know. If you think this is all rubbish and there's some better things, then definitely let me know. But I really, you know, hope that you've found this useful. I do hope to do some other videos soon. I'm going to do hopefully one with this little bit of strap and try and take off the gold plating and try and get it to probably the extreme. I might take this to almost a mirror finish for you, so you can kind of see all the steps that I take. You know, and that's it. So, well, thanks for watching, and I hope I've not bored you to tears. Thank you.